Welcome old family and new family to BoomBappED, capital ED. This is your host with the most, Brandon Bushido Garvey White. We got Rob Lowe on the tech as per usual. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a recurring guest and a special guest nonetheless in the building. We have the MC, we have the educator, Mr. Vicke Vyto.
Wish people would clap. You know?
right. I'm sorry, man.
We're
not that finesse with the boards and whatnot, having little good clap sound bites. You know what I'm saying?
Just like they doing the modern sitcoms and stuff, because
Indeed.
Rel and the Carmichael show.
Woo!
There you go.
Indeed, man. Me and my wife been watching Family Matters on Hulu. In the '90s, had the best live audience crowds. I swear.
Really
and every sitcom, they're extra rowdy, and when there's a kiss, it's woo!
Yeah, every time. No matter what happens.
Indeed. But I digress. But for those who don't know, BoomBappED is an honest, open, and clear-headed exploration of education and cultural issues focused on, but not limited to, the Rochester area through a hip-hop lens. So, Vic, man, we usually do some sort of icebreaker question here. The icebreaker question we got to ask you, as somebody who is a classroom educator, if you have to give a master class on an album, a hip-hop album for your English language arts students, which album would it be and why?
Jeez, it's a tough question. Only because, right? It's tough because the students that I deal with,
Yeah.
they're 6'9" heads. You know what I'm saying? Like they're in the 6'9" and Lil Perp and all those people. So good stuff. Good stuff with. I'm not saying that stuff isn't good, because I'm sure there's something there. There's some substance there, because they wouldn't be so attached to it if it wasn't. But damn, definitely have to be Nas I Am.
Nas I Am, out of all the albums, Nas I Am. How come Nas I Am?
Nas I Am. I just feel like he was real raw in that, man. Raw. Like that was gritty. It was, but it was still knowledge. You know what I'm saying? It was still insightful. It was, a different experience for me. So definitely would be something different for them, especially if they're not coming from that place.
I can definitely see middle schoolers more immediately connecting and diving into I Am as opposed to other albums like Illmatic, or even like the self-titled one, or the one that was formerly called like the N-word one, right? Just because how it sounds, how I Am sounds, how it sounded then isn't radically different from how commercial radio sounds now.
Right.
With it still being very dense with a lot of storytelling and a lot of masterful use of the English language arts.
Definitely.
I actually kind of jumped the gun. Tell the people who you are.
So
icebreaker before I ask who
I
you
am
are.
Vicke Vyto. I am educator in the Rochester City School District. A hip hop, I don't even know what to call it. Just an enthusiast, and I really love the genre. I love making music. I love performing. I teach 7th and 8th graders here in the city.
Yes. Middle school English in the house.
Get a sense of that real world stuff before they take themselves out there and play themselves. Because I'm seeing that a lot these days. And that's the reason why I wanted to teach, Because when I was being taught in their grades, teachers were like, yo, here, this is what you do. And it all pertained to stuff in the classroom, but I couldn't connect it to the world outside of the classroom. So it was like, all right, I'm not figuring stuff out in the classroom that's going to actually help me in my real life. Reading, writing, that's cool. But, critical thinking, you put yourself in a situation and you need to really think about it.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I feel like the best teachers teach students how to think, not necessarily what to think. Right. So you talked about the connection between the classroom and the wider community outside the classroom or the school building. Growing up, did you ever see any kind of connections between what you were doing in your English class and how you were a participant in hip-hop culture?
Nope.
Wow. Isn't that something?
Never.
Wow. Mars, peace to Mars McGowan, when he was on here, actually he has a line in one of his later projects where he references the fact that the things that he was learning in English class kind of helped him understand rap better and how to write raps better. And the same thing happened with me as an MC coming up, particularly in high school. I started seeing connections between the literary devices and what I valued about Nas, right? Or Ghostface or whoever. But you're saying like the education that you were given didn't allow for that connection.
I wasn't in school. So
yeah, talk about that a little bit.
You know, I worked. I went to work. So instead of going to school where I might have gotten those opportunities, one, I was bored in school. So without that challenge, without somebody actually patting me on the back or pushing me to go to school, it's like, nah, forget this. I don't need it. I'm gonna go to work. I can help my mom pay the bills. We good. So I picked up 3 jobs. This is high school. I checked into school, checked right out. So what education did you get in being outside of school? When during those times in those years where you were technically checking into school but weren't going to school and you were working, providing, what were you learning in that time frame? I mean, I want to say nothing, but that's not.
It can't be true.
Again, listening to hip hop, you know, learning at poetry at its finest. Writing was always a strong writer. I mean, not really a academically strong writer because I really hate structured papers, but that's just me. But writing, definitely did a lot of writing. It didn't have to be about anything. Just writing was definitely for sure. Reading, I did read a lot because I needed to get my mind away from, you know, just life in general. And reading was a good escape for that. So I read, I write.
What did you read?
Oh man, comic books. Of all things, I read comic books. Graphic novels. I tried to do, you know, novels and things like that. Get into some of those authors that they say, you know, you need to read these people.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me.
I just got done reading actually a decent amount of comics. I got done reading Wolverine Logan. I just got done reading Batman White Knight. That one that recently came out. Did you read that yet?
Haven't.
Son, without giving away too much, basically the Joker does what he does, right? And he, you know, communicates to Batman in a way that gets under Batman's skin about some critical truths about why he's this maniac who's, you know, like dressing up like a bat and it's not really all about justice, but you really need a Joker in your life. He's saying all that kind of crazy stuff, right? And in one of Batman's kind of fascist fits, right? Because, you know, like there's that critique of it being kind of, you know, fascist, even though he's like a justice person, right? He crams mad, unapproved, un-FDA approved, FDA non-approved, non-approved, English teacher here, non-approved FDA, non-FDA approved. There we go. I was gonna get it, Vic. I was gonna get it. Non-FDA approved, pills, like for psychological needs. It straightens the Joker out. Joker's now a sane person. And he's now hyper intelligent, and now he's making an argument against vigilantism, and that vigilantism is what created the Joker. People fall behind him, start rallying behind him, rally against Batman. Crazy story, son. So much commentary about neoliberalism, about gentrification, about social media, about big pharma. It's man, I suggest you read that for sure. But anyway, comment after I got done, you know, stuttering all over that non-FDA approved drug. There we go. What about comics? Kind of like
the stories. Definitely those stories. Again, the escape was needed. So you know, if I could take myself to a place where, you know, some dude is jumping off a building to, you know, do something spectacular on the next page. Next page is a cliffhanger, so I gotta wait till next month to see what's going on.
Indeed.
Cool. That's what it happened.
Do you think comic books have a place in classroom instruction?
Definitely. There's a lot of good ones out there. Bayou is a look at slavery, you know, from a different lens. I think Bayou's a good one to check out. It should be taught in the classroom. Yummy, the diary.
Yeah, it's the Southside Shorty.
That is deep, you know, and just to see that in graphic novel form, it's a lot less. It makes the reality that much more real because it's a true story.
Yeah.
But it's in a classroom, you know? Put it in a classroom, let the kids see that. They need to. This is what's going on. This is how we hurt one another. You know what I'm saying? This is how the system, right? The system does it. Dude was broken from the jump. And then he went on and did some dumb stuff. But by the end of it, he wanted to get better. He wanted to be better. You know what I'm saying? So
some would make the argument that, well, Vic, comic books aren't intellectually stimulating enough. They're not challenging enough to read. So we're not really giving them anything to kind of build up their literary stamina and muscle. What would you say to that?
False. I mean, there's a lot of symbolism in comics. I mean, a lot of symbolism, a lot of themes. Definitely deal with themes heavy. Main idea, show a kid a picture or something and let them try to figure out the main idea right there. You know, compare and contrast. You got two characters, Batman and the Joker. Why can't they compare and contrast these characters? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of literary things that they can do with it. You just gotta spend the time and actually get it done.
I think one of the more underrated things about comics in terms of the challenge it provides is how stories are frequently structured too. Because my sister, avid reader, more so even than me, right? Don't ignore that. Things fall apart here. And you know, she'll be quick to tear down like a 400-page book real fast. But I'll read graphic novels, and she'll be like, Brandon, like I can't follow that, how things are structured. And not to say that there's entropy or disorder, but it's really intricate and things change frequently all the time. And it's so well narrated with all these parallel things happening. And in terms of the symbolism is even more potent because you have the visual. It's not just the words, the verbal symbolism. It's the visuals that are paired with that. When I read Watchmen, I was like, this is up there with anything that was exclusively print, if not accelerated past, because it does what print does at its best, and then some.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely think Watchmen should be in classroom.
No.
It should be in the curriculum.
Yeah, I think that there are definitely graphic novels that belong in the curriculum, not only for the relevancy, but for the rigor. Because I think some people see comics as like, oh, well, you're just trying to appease to the kids, then try to get them reading, even though it's not really producing a challenge for their grade level, blah, blah, blah. But there are also comics that do that.
Right, there are.
Tons of comics that do that.
Definitely. I know for a fact one that's great for kids. We talking K through pre-K through like 4th grade. This is a joint called Owly. You know what I mean? No words, so the kids get to come up with their own story. Kids that aren't reading, just give them that and let them come up with their own story about what's going on. That's how you get them thinking. That's how you get them wanting to be engaged in reading and things like that. And then you take students, because you take a thing about your typical classroom in the city school district, 7th graders, but their levels are varied from 2nd to 7th grade. So a comic book could do anything. They could meet this person where they're at and challenge your person that's, you know, right there at grade level. It all depends on, you know, the material that you put with it.
Absolutely. And just the same with books. The same with, regular print books, where you know, if you have a student that's reading at 6th grade level and they're in the 9th grade, you can put a text in front of them that can still be challenging, right? Or in their own way or their own time, or during independent reading, or wherever and whenever, they can have a text that of where they're at, and that text where you want them to be, so that way they can, you know, again, have that exercise and muscle. And it can be done through a comic book too. You know what I'm saying? So actually, I'm gonna kick something to you real quick, because we just got done talking about Batman White Knight, and I see you had the Batman hat. I was talking with a co-worker of mine, and I see some parallels between Trump and the Joker. And as I'm new to this. I ain't true to this. You true to this. So I'm gonna run by my Joker narrative theory to you. And you let me know. Show no shame. Just be you totally off. If I'm totally off, just say I'm off.
Gotcha.
So I see Trump and the Joker playing very similar roles. What Joker is to Gotham, Trump is to America. And I say that because they're both chaos agents.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos agents that aren't obviously aligned to one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously against the so-called do-gooders, right? In this case, like Trump, he's obviously against the quote-unquote liberal or progressive or quote-unquote Democrat or Obama, whatever. He's obviously against all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's not necessarily down with the set that you would think he'd be down with. The same way that Joker's not necessarily always down with criminals, right? So the same way Joker's not always down with criminals, Trump's not always down with Republicans,
right.
Right. In fact, he's too reckless for Republicans, and the Republicans don't know what to do with him, so they kind of just are quiet about him or are afraid of him. The same way that Republicans are kind of afraid of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Am I accurate so far? Kind of.
Yeah, so far.
Okay. All right. The Joker's help comes from a couple different places. His power.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from the mentally ill, right? And in this case, Trump's powers come from a couple different places. The mentally ill, i.e. the extreme racist, the neo-Nazi, the super conspiracy theorists, like the Alex Joneses of the world and whatnot. It also still comes from the criminals somewhat, because criminals still kind of work with them, right? I.e. like the Republicans, right? I'm not saying every Republican out here is a criminal. I'm not saying that at all. But his power also comes from the so-called do-gooders that are always giving him attention.
Right.
I.e. CNN.
Right.
and i.e. progressive outlets and blah, 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 blah. And the powerful thing about the Joker is he makes you really look at how things are run in the wider society.
Right.
Even with the so-called good doing things that aren't necessarily super productive.
Right.
I feel like Trump has caused... Joker also gets his power from the ignorant. Right? The gullible.
Yep.
Right? The gullible.
Yep.
And the gullible and the desperate.
Yep.
Right? And that's a lot of poor white folk who feel very desperate about politics as usual. Exactly.
She was gullible and desperate.
Yep, exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's supposedly still very sharp and articulate and all of that. I just found that out, by the way, in White Knight, that she was super clear-headed, but just was very desperate. But he also gets his power from the desperate. But he also has this ability to make you look at the quote-unquote do-gooders with a critical lens, because as wrong and as foul as the Joker is, he's able to make you think about how Batman's flaws, are problematic in the work and are problematic for Gotham. It makes you think about how GPD or GCPD, Gotham City Police Department, has its own crazy dirt and craziness. The same way that Trump will make you think about the wider society, like, you know what, Trump is foul, but you know what, and he did call what are they called? He did call Haiti and all these other places S-holes. But the Clinton Foundation actually treated them like S-holes, making having Hillary's brother get the gold contracts and the formaldehyde lace trailers and all of that. These are supposedly the quote-unquote do-gooders or the people on the side of justice, right? And it makes you think about a lot of neoliberalism that goes on. Even though Joker is still the most foul person in the room, despite all the critiques he makes you think about, the same way Trump is easily the most foul person in the room. You know what I'm saying? And it's still America's id. The same way Joker is Gotham's. Check my thinking on that.
Nah, I believe you're absolutely right. Because I feel like that's exactly what Trump did. Trump stepped into office, made us think about everything that's wrong with politics, everything that's wrong with America right now. How can a dude who clearly don't give a damn about nothing, right?
right.
Except for his own self, he tweets.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
and it just brings chaos. Right.
But then it's just like you said, there are people who try to do good, but they keep feeding into the nonsense, you know what I'm saying? So it automatically makes, all right, cool, he's that more important now. So it doesn't matter what you're saying. We see the purpose, we get the point, but you just made this dude 5 times more powerful than he was before.
That's right.
Just like the Joker, right?
Yep.
He does this thing. He steps in a room. Villains look at him like, we don't want to deal with you because you're crazy, but we want to deal with you because if you're on our side for the moment, we good.
Yeah.
You look at Batman in comparison to why hasn't he taken him out?
Right.
I think they're the same person.
Yeah. And that's the thing where it's just like, because that was the last piece I was thinking of, the last connecting piece where I was thinking like, you know what, like the Joker's not out because the Joker, to take the Joker out would be a major indictment on just Gotham in general.
Yep.
He's literally a part of Gotham's psyche.
Everything that's wrong with it is in the Joker.
Yep.
And just like everything that's wrong with it is in the Bat. So you put them together, it's all about whose line's gonna break first.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
One's trying to push the other's trying to push something. I don't even know what Bruce is trying to push, but he's trying to push something. But the Joker's clearly got him. He's got him pinned.
Yeah.
He's got him pinned. They are the same person, and every incarnation just does something more foul to bother Bruce in a way that should really make him snap.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
He's just like, hey, listen, it's all good. I see you at the family reunion, brother.
Yeah. Because think about it. They say like the Joker's not locked up, Trump's not locked up.
Right.
After all the dirt and craziness that's going on.
So we take Me Too, right? Me Too was a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
We put the homie in office, but we locking up other people. People was losing. Russell Simmons had to step down for some claims that was made years ago. My man legit said, yo, when you're rich, you can do whatever.
Right.
Just do it.
Yep.
What? Yo, all right, cool.
Too many people, I think too many people are implicated with what Trump has done for him to be arrested. The same way too many people are implicated with the Joker, for the Joker to actually be like locked up in jail, not Arkham, not the asylum.
Right.
So I don't know, but I guess that goes back to the point of comics being deep enough to be in classroom instruction.
So I mean, if you just take something like that to the classroom and just say, let's look at parallels here. We got Trump, we got the Joker. Show me what's going on with each of them. How are they alike? How are they different? If the Joker was the president, do you think that? So in students, they love stuff like that, whether they like to admit it or not. They love doing stuff like that. What? We're not talking about that fish from Old Man in the Sea. We're talking about the Joker, and we get to talk crap about the president. Yo, I'm all in it. Yo, this class was lit. Your class was literally lit today, son. L-I-T, literature,
lit, indeed.
Son. And that's how they respond to stuff like that. And I feel like if a lot of more classes of mine have been like that way back when I was in school,
Right.
I feel like that 1.8 that I finally finished high school with could have been at least a 2.0. I would have put the time in to be there because that's interesting and that's real life.
And it's still rigorous. It's still challenging.
Because you still got to think.
Right.
Man, you can't come to the table with nothing. We're talking about some fake stuff, but I'm going to be on point for this. You don't want to look dumb.
Indeed.
Nobody wants to be the dumb kid in the class. Not saying that they out there. They just, those that fall behind or those that aren't as advanced as the others. Nobody's dumb, but, that's the feeling.
Yeah.
When you come unprepared or you're not really there up here, you like, am I really this stupid? Is what I say not good enough?
Word.
That's kids.
That's kids.
Confidence is just not there.
Yep. Indeed. And I think to that point, if we are engendering critical thinking skills while we're teaching them like the actual technical skills, that they'll have enough confidence to kind of catch up their need to be in the critical. Technical, get the technical down in terms of being able to write technically well and speak quote unquote technically well. You know what I'm saying? So, but just for the record, again, nobody is saying that all Republicans are criminals.
No, they're not.
We're not saying that. BoomBappED Radio is not saying that, but we are saying that there is a fundamentalist conservative element of it that is very criminal, i.e., taking fun. Excuse me. I'm having a hard time speaking today. I.e., getting caught up in scandal after scandal after scandal. In that party, which is ironic because oftentimes the scandals happen after them speaking out against such activity. So again, speaking to that element of the Republican Party, not the everyday working man or woman who just happens to have conservative views. I can care less about that.
Yeah,
you know
not
what I'm saying?
a joker.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but I'm talking about your Paul Ryans out there. I'm talking about your George Bushes out there, your Dick Cheneys. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Your Reagans, the most elite, that don't even really represent the values of the average Republican half the time. So that's what I'm talking about, y'all. So, you're an educator, right?
Yep.
And you have extremely human songs like Happy Hour.
Yes.
Where you're like, you know what, like, it's happy hour.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I also, you know, have to deal with this reality of, like, you know, stepping into a classroom, being human, but also being, like, you know, like a role model kind of. And then, you know, like, but I'm still an MC and I have my own experiences, and they might not always reflect the quote unquote image of a quote unquote teacher.
Right.
How do you reconcile that sometimes?
Oh man, it takes a lot of happy hours.
Yeah.
It's difficult because, you know, you want at one point you tell a kid, hey, don't drink.
Yeah.
Hey, don't do drugs, right?
Right.
But then realistically, you think about it like, yo, Friday's coming. And if I can, I'm about to go get lit.
Yeah.
Right.
And
then they might hear the song, they might come across and they be like, yo, Mr. Nelson, you was talking about doing this, that. And I'm like, shocked first off, because they called me Mr. Nelson, right? And I'm like, listening to the song. Yeah, that's cool. But, you know, don't let that define who I am, because when I'm in front of you, you know, I'm always make sure that what you do is for your best interest. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
You need to grow from this. It's not about what I did or what I've done. Like I said, it was a moment. It was. Do I have them? I'll never tell. But, you know what I'm saying? As long as we standing in this room, we in a space where this is classroom first.
Yep.
All that stuff is after. Oh, I'm gonna call you Vic. Yeah, once you cross that stage, you go ahead.
Yeah, right, indeed.
I'm fine with that, but make it across the stage. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Be at a 7th grade reading level. Then let's have this conversation about what I do in my personal life, or what you want to make it seem is more than what it is right now. Because I guarantee you, I'll never have happy hour in the classroom.
Right.
You know?
That's right. That's
it'll
real
never
talk.
happen in the classroom.
That's real
but
talk.
when we hear, let's make sure that
no
we
$3 Coronas in ELA. No. Okay.
Unless. But that's a whole different fantasy. Yeah, but in the classroom, you know, it's always, all right, work first. Anything you want to know, anything you want to do after, get it in.
And I think that makes it, to a certain extent, that makes it more real. You know what I'm saying? Just because they know you're not an automaton in the front of the class. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're able to be more of your authentic self, and they're able to see, like, there's actual value to what he's talking about with this English stuff, because he lives it. He's a practitioner of the English language arts. He's, you know, trying to get us to, you know, engage in. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of teachers don't practice what they teach after hours. You know what I'm saying?
And that
like,
trips me out.
You know?
And that trips me out.
Whether it's like, reading about, like, I don't know if you're a social studies, like, if you're a social studies teacher, whether it's about, like, reading, you know, a book on a biography about, you know, some historical person, or watching History Channel. Like, a lot of them, the second the bell rings,
check that.
It's just there is no, your life has no connection to the content whatsoever.
Nope,
so why should the students feel like they need real application?
And that's the problem. I feel like that's one of the biggest problems we have in our city. You know, that lack of application.
Indeed.
So
we got to close out. Unfortunately, we got 1 minute left, man. It's a good conversation. What we want to do real fast is name your top 5 MCs that, in honor of the legendary Stan Lee. And you don't necessarily have to be Marvel book characters either, but your top 5 MCs that have taken on some sort of superhero monikers.
Dang, the only ones I can think of is, I don't even know if they took on monikers, but Outkast, that album cover that they had.
That's fair. That's fair.
God, that was crazy. Slim Shady.
That's not a comic book character.
I mean, not a comic. He was himself. So I guess. But let me see.
What about Jean Grey?
She alright. I prefer Rhapsody though.
I prefer in your Rhapsody, face. Though. Literally, we was just talking about this yesterday, homie. Rhapsody, just yesterday, we was talking about that. See, he's trying to rush us off now because he's outnumbered. He's trying to rush us off now. See that? Yeah, literally, I swear, we was just talking about that yesterday.
Yo, I prefer Rhapsody though. I can't even give it to you like that.
Yeah, I feel you.
That's crazy, but that was a dope question. I'm gonna have to do some more research.
Yeah, think about it. Yeah, they out there.
They out there.
You know what I'm saying? DJ Clark Kent. We got what's it called MF Doom.
Yeah.
We got I said Jean Grey already. Big Punisher don't count, does he? Because I think he might have named it after the Punisher. I'm not sure.
Punisher in it, so we might as well just give it to him.
Indeed.
All right, Pun was dope.
Yeah.
Pun was definitely dope. I wish he had more post human stuff. Why not? Everybody else does.
Indeed.
Everybody else does. But his son is nice though.
Yeah. Chris Rivers is dope.
Chris is definitely dope.
Iron Man, Tony Stark's Ghost.
Yeah, you're right. But he got so many names though, don't he?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Any moniker.
Oh, okay. My bad. Then
Well, yeah. Keep thinking. We'll build on Facebook about it.
Yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be dope. Shout out to Jean Grey. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
she's still dope.
She is. Yep. No, definitely. And honestly, just to be fair to Rob, I was saying that Jean Grey is probably my favorite female MC of all time. Actually, I got one of her bars tatted on my arm.
Okay.
My blood is a million stories. She said that on Talib's album. Look at you. But I also bigged up Rhapsody because I thought Rhapsody was super nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vic, just tell the people where they can reach you. Tell them about upcoming projects, and we'll sign out.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Everything is at Vicke Vyto. VICKE There's a key in there somewhere. You just gotta look for it. I got Bar Now. That's the follow-up to my first EP. It'll be out late January. Definitely be out late January. So look out for that. Definitely.
Word up. Yo, thank you for all our new listeners and veteran listeners. You've been listening to BoomBappED. Thank you, Vicke Vyto, for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
No doubt. You're listening to Wayo 104.3. Man, I can't talk at all today. Catch us every Tuesday, 1:30 to 2. You can also catch us online, on Mixcloud and on Facebook. Peace and progress.